Hey, it's your brother VANSILK, so I'm back again. No thunder and lightning to disrupt me. So, when I started talking about how I got into hip hop, I did a part one. So, part two is mainly going to be more about the record side and, me trying to get in the record industry, So, a lot of things I could talk about. I'm looking at my iPad so I can refresh my memory on some of the stuff that I do want to talk about, But for starters, me and Afrika Islam at one point ended up at Spring Records. Spring Records was run by Steve Rifkind's father and uncle. And, they had a fatback band, Joe Simon and Millie Jackson. And originally they had signed Mr. Magic's Message, and Dollar Bill by Jimmy Spicer. So by the time we got there, we was trying to bring in new stuff, and we did. Bought an Ice-T, Mele, and Bronx Style Bob, did a couple records, Kurt Hamilton from Harlem, William Hamilton, he bought us Cheryl Pearl, Don't You Sit Back Down, B Fats Wop It, and Hollywood, Oontang Oontang. And I kept telling Kurt, like, yo, I need a younger artist, man. Hollywood and all of them is cool, but I need something different. And instead of him bringing us the next song, he took it to Profile, which kind of pissed me off. The name of that song was It Takes Two by Rob Bass. And for some reason, it seemed like me and record people just never meshed, because at Spring Records, the Goodmans, Dana and Lawrence Goodman from Pop Arts bought us Jazz Jeff and the French Prince. They bought us Steady B. And the Rifkin said, no, too much money for a 12-inch. Like, come on, it's not a lot of money. $1,500, $2,000 wasn't a lot of money. I mean, we could have physically signed Ice-T at Spring Posse and probably could have had it picked up and distributed. I mean, it was right there in our backyard. Islam, everything Islam recorded Ice-T stuff me and Islam was at Spring Records, Posse Records. Steve Rifkind had left after he done learned everything. We could have signed Mele, like, come on. And it just fell. The last recording on that label was me and Mele Police Academy 6. And I was kind of mad because, when Scott LaRock and Chris bought me the Boogie Down Production album, we could have signed it. That was an easy one. So I turned around at the end and doing a Posse Rap compilation album. Islam went on and started doing other stuff, producing, Ice-T and Eminem and, just doing his thing. But at that time, it was over at Spring because things were starting to change. Then I ran into Earl Monroe that played for the Knicks. He had a label, and I was trying to help him on his record label, it's during the mid-'80s. And during that time, I was still dealing with Joe Robinson on certain things, and he was trying to do a deal with the Rhino record label to distribute the Sugar Hill catalog. And all of the same breath, my man Quincy Newell was over there at Rhino. And I connected Rhino with Charlie Ahern, and they did the Wild Style distribution deal for Charlie. I asked Charlie, why did he sign a 10-year distribution deal with Rhino? Oh, God. But it all came down to, with also Quincy and I had met with Gusto and rest in peace Greg Marius about doing a whole deal with the Entertainment Basketball League. And that was something that, it was for TV. So, Quincy ended up going to Cold Black and, putting out, a lot of big stuff. Shaq and, Kevin Hart and movies. It's my man Quincy, though. But, at a certain point, I was reaching. I wanted to be at a record label. I wanted to bring in an artist. So, I had my man Kevin Evans was at Scotty Brothers Records, working for the Scotties. And if you don't know who the Scotties are, then you wasn't really in the record industry. But, I personally felt that RCA needed change from the president, Skip Miller. And I had a conversation with Jules Rifkin, and I had a conversation with Pete Jones, who was in charge of BMG distribution, and Terry Rossi, who worked over at Billboard, but then she became working for BMG Distribution, and I was saying that I think there should be a change, and I was a nobody. But a lot of people took what I said, you know, they heard. I'm like, yo, because they asked me, who you think should come over to RCA and put some life into it? I said, got this young brother out in RCA, Scotty Brothers named Kevin Evans. You know, I said, he just did the Barry White Practice What You Preach. He's worked with James Brown. He worked the whole thing, Weird Al Yankovic. You know, he had something to do with the Michael Jordan, I Want to Be Like Mike song, and he used to be at A&M when he signed Angie Stone, Vertical Hold. So he got an ear. He understands music. So Kevin Evans ended up getting the job at RCA. You know, we signed Tyrese. I just wish that Steve Stout would have stayed there, and I wish Kenny Ortiz, who was good working with SWV, would have stayed there as well, and DJ Clue was an intern. Man, that RCA situation was like really tight, man, because I promised my boy Tobin Costen that was working with Master P that, yo, I could get Master P a deal at RCA. My man's coming over. So like for a whole year, you know, like we're gonna do Master P. And we went down to New Orleans and met with Master P. And the funny thing was that Bob Jameson, the president of RCA Records, did not want to do a distribution deal with Master P. And that wasn't even for a lot of money, man. And that's what really pissed me off, you know, that we didn't get to do the Master P deal. Bill Stephanie, I did a deal with him for the Furious Five, but eventually that broke down. But my deal was to try to get DRU Hill. And me and Kevin fought for that. And Island Record ended up with that. And the worst one was, Lily gave me the SWV situation. And not SWV, Lily from SWV gave me Beyonce and them situation about going down to see, you know, Destiny's Child. I had the videotape. And long story short, it didn't happen, you know. And I'm just really pissed off about that. I mean, in this industry, you could be at a label, but you could have your finger on the pulse. You know, they'll chop you down. Like the whole funny thing with Kid Rock. You know, I was living in Jersey City. He was staying in Dixon Mills, and he had a problem with his man. Funny, he fucked up shit, man. His man threw him out, so I let him come stay with me for like a week and a half. This is right when I was getting ready to do Rap Mania. And he was going through all my hip-hop archive. He already had his album done. And he was, you know, the cover, his man, the black man, was down with him. I knew everything about Rob Ritchie, man. And the funny thing was, he was telling Barry Weiss at job that VANSILK is my manager, and boom, 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 and this, and boom, 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 and that. And at the end of the day, he came back to me like, yo, Van, the people at Job Records told me they don't think I should fuck with you. You know, they don't think you'll be a good manager for what they want to do with me. I said, you know what, man, just go ahead and do what you got to do, man, because I'm ready to do Rap Mania, which is my first TV special, and move on. So they went and got D-Nice to act like D-Nice actually brought him out. But it's all good. I'm not mad at him because he did discuss it with me, you know, and we had that conversation, you know. In between that, you know, I ran into my man Liltroy, you know, want to be a baller, shot caller. You know, he was down in Houston, Texas, blowing up, putting out his movies and stuff. And we was talking about, like, yo, who's the next hot kid coming up? And he told me about this kid named Lil Boosie and shit. You know, out of Baton Rouge. I'm like, Lil Boosie, I never heard of him. But, I reached out. Lil Boosie had mad mixtapes he was making, and I was trying to get in touch with him, but it was hard to try to break that reign with Turk and them. But that was a situation eventually that I had wanted to bring up north, you know, as well, the Master P deal. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I ended up doing some things with Boosie and them, like the, you know, with the Wipe Me Down song and the INDE, independent song him and Webby did. You know, and at the end of the day, I still support my man Boosie, man, because he's a good brother. You know, he went to jail and everything, but he, you know, a whole good brother, you know. You know, RCA sent me out to Philly to go work with Joe Nicolo, who had Rough House, but him and Rough House Joe Nicolo and Chris Schwartz, but they broke up. So Joe created Judgment Records. So Bob Jameson sent me out to Philly to work with Joe, help him with his label. And one thing Joe had to do was to deliver a new Lauryn Hill album. Now this is in '98. And to deliver a Crisscross album, which never got delivered because Jermaine Dupri was charging one song for what their budget was, and I just couldn't understand that. And I'm sitting here in the hotel room with both Chris. But what I really wanted to bring over to Judgment through RCA was the whole Kayslay. You know, Kayslay was working on his Street Sweeper album because he was doing the Street Sweeper mixtapes. And, you know, that didn't happen because they didn't understand it. Then the DJ from Philly, Cosmic Kev, was hating. And I'm going to call her name out. Yes, she was hating. And, you know, Kayslay ended up taking a whole deal to Columbia. You know, Sony, you know, all that. And 50 Cent was on his first album. So, you know, like, I don't know if it was me or if it was just the breaks. You know, I had to deal with Motown with Gerald Busby. God bless his soul. You know, Steve McKeever just got out of Harvard. He started hitting beats eventually, and he signed Jill Scott. But I always thought that my deal with Motown was just a deal to give somebody some money and get them out there to spend a budget. Because I didn't think the A&R guy and them took my project seriously. You know, the whole Compton Most Wanted thing was something that I talked to Charles Huggin with. You know, my man Ant Capone was down, but you know, Lonzo, you know, from out there, he actually commenced their deal with Charles Huggin through Capitol. But you know, I ended up doing with Kevin Evans through Scotty Brothers, distributed by RCA, was the Raiders of the Lost Ark album, which, you know, had new songs with Houdini, Furious 5, the original Spinnerella, Kurtis Blow, Kool Moe Dee, Treacherous Street, Busy Bee, Afrika Band by the Soul Sonic Force, if I'm leaving anybody out, Fearless 4. You know, because I could have just did one act on there, but you know, I said, nah, let me give my brothers a shot, because ain't nobody was trying to give them a shot in '94. And then, you know, I did like a Old School Buddies 1 and 2, which was like a reissue with my man over there at Capitol, you know, and Tom Cartwright. You know, we did the Old School Buddies 1 and 2. And, you know, like, I just never got that real break inside the record industry. You know, like, Joe Busby was saying to me, like, yo, I could see you being, you know, like the president one day of Motown Records. And, you know, he passed. And then they gave it to Mr. Jackson, who was a TV producer. He died, and then they gave it to Andre Harrell. And to me, I felt that Andre didn't know enough about music. Yeah, you had success with Mary J. and all the stuff that you moved over that Universal with Uptown Records, but I was never given that shot like him and Russell. It seemed like whenever I was getting there, it seemed like somebody from the other side was shooting me down. But I don't have nothing bad to say about nobody in the end. At the end of the day, you know, from Spring Records, you know, the Earl Monroe label, Pre-Pearl Records, to even my man Darryl Strawberry from the Mets had a label, you know, and to me trying to get my hand on certain artists and get them signed, and I did get a couple of other artists signed, but they never became big. You know, it was one deal that I didn't like that was nasty. I had an artist out of Long Island named Chance. Producer, real good. And I'm over here at Polygram Records, and they was like, listen, man, we're going to sign your artist. He said, but I'm just going to let you know we're dropping Kurtis Blow off the label. And I'm like, why? And he just gave me an explanation. I'm not going to blow him up. Kurtis know who he is. I said, you know, my man, I'd rather not do that deal, you know, because I don't think it's fair, because y'all ain't pushing Kurtis. And Kurtis wasn't even over 30 when they was trying to do this. I did write a song on that album, Only the Strong Survive, me and Billy Bill. And Vivian Scott did give me some groups to remix songs, you know, Prince Vincent, them out of Detroit. But there was a lot of artists I seen me getting signed to labels that was total garbage. Garbage. I mean, they were just like garbage. And I, you know, at this age now, what can you do? But like I said, you know, shout out to everybody that went through the channels with me, through the record labels. You know, to me, I did what I could. It's your brother VANSILK, a.k.a. Valparella. I'm out.